Welcome along to episode 13 of the Football Fun Factory podcast. Lucky for some, but lucky for me, I'm here with Super Lukey Chadwick and Super Johnny Martin. Today, we're going to be discussing whether you need to have played the game professionally to be a fantastic coach. I'm sure that there's going to be a really interesting discussion on this one. Luke, looking forward to it?
I am. I'm looking forward to a few controversial arguments from my good mate Johnny. But it's a really interesting subject. I know from my sort of point of view, I was incredibly lucky to have had a career in professional football, which helped with my coaching qualifications in terms of sort of maybe fast tracking through them, getting onto courses easier. So it's going to be a interesting debate today.
And with one ex-professional in the room versus one non-professional player.
Yes.
Two.
Three if you include Ollie behind the camera.
Ollie's up there as well. But with one ex-professional in the room versus other people who are not as fortunate enough to have the God-given talent to play at the highest level. It's going to be a really interesting debate, John. Without giving that too much away.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I think we've obviously had very different careers through playing and coaching, and it will be interesting to see how they match up and see how the debate goes.
So it's time for the hammer. Are we all ready?
Ready to go?
Should we get the fingers out and give it one of these?
No.
Okay. All right. Fine. If we're not interested, that's fine. Let's put this on trial. It's now time for everyone's favourite part of the podcast, James's Court, where we get to talk about two contrasting views on today's topic. Johnny, what are you laughing at?
Your wig today looks ridiculous.
Every time you put this wig on, it falls differently. Today, out of 10? 6, Chad?
4.
I'm going to go for 10.
Nice.
Okay, so one for you, Luke.
Thank you.
One for you, Johnny. Reminder of the topic as you guys read those envelopes. We're going to be talking about, do you need to have been a professional footballer to be a fantastic football coach? If you're coaching children, if you're coaching adults, have you played the game to a high standard and can you use that experience, or is that even necessary? It's going to be interesting to see who gets what here. How's it going to fall? Let's start with Luke.
Now this is controversial. You have to have played the game to be a great coach. No matter what age group you are coaching, no professional appearances equals no point coaching.
Oh, no point coaching. Wow, that's strong. That is strong. Johnny, do you want to read your statement before we put Chaddy on the stand?
There is absolutely no need to have played the game to be a great coach, especially within youth football.
Short, sharp, and to the point. No need whatsoever, Luke, to have played the game. No benefit. Let's find out. So Chaddy's saying that it's really, really important. Of course he would say that, given his history. Johnny, do you want to put him on the stand, ask him some questions?
Yeah, do you want to give any sort of indication or background as to why that's the case, Luke?
I think it's blatantly obvious, isn't it? If you can't play the game, if you haven't reached a certain level of the game, why should you be able to coach the game to others without having those experiences?
What about if you played to a half-decent standard? So maybe you've played semi-professional or you've...
Like you?
Well, you know...
It's never played semi-professional.
Yeah, but have you seen my technique, Luke? What have you played football previously and you've played to a half-decent standard? Are you saying that they can't coach either?
I think if you've not sort of at least had a couple of games in the Premier League, you shouldn't really be teaching children how to play the game.
What about if a coach has studied the game? What about if they've got a really bad injury when they were 6 years old and meant that they couldn't go on to play at the Premier League at the highest
some
level?
Injury at 6 to keep them out of the game. I think if you've not lived it, if you've not been in it, I think it's hard to then give advice or coach others how to do it. I mean, I think you must agree with me. I don't know if you're trying to argue.
That's exactly what I'm trying to do, Luke. That's the point of the concept.
Apologies.
What about if, obviously, all the children that come to sessions and come to games, they're not really passionate about becoming a professional footballer and they just want to play for the love of the game? Are you saying that coaches have to have played in the Premier League to try and develop a long-lasting love for the game within the children that they coach? You're nodding.
Yeah, exactly that. I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I think in terms of every single child that plays football wants to then go on and become a professional, so they need an ex-professional.
Let's just hold it there. I'm going to save you, Luke, before you say something you regret. So, Jonny, your statement, if you remind us of your statement, then just give us a little bit of context, and then, Luke, you can give him a grilling.
Cool. So there is absolutely no need to have played the game to be a great coach, especially within youth football. I think the best example of this, we are sat here today with one of the worst footballers I've ever seen in Judge James. But my God, is he a good coach? I'm only speaking the truth in court. This guy's got one hell of a rainbow flick and a pretty decent cross on him, but he's never played in the Premier League. But he is a super duper talented coach, Luke.
Thank you very much.
Firstly, what I'm going to say is that I disagree with that. Having played with James on one occasion, What I'd say is an average footballer and an average coach. But when I played with you, I thought you were at least one of the best 9 players in that team.
No, side.
I'm trying to obviously change the subject here because I've got myself into a bit of a corner. But so what you're saying is like someone can teach someone to drive a aeroplane without ever having flown a plane themselves. That sounds like exactly what you're saying. That's dangerous. That is dangerous.
No, what I'm saying, Luke, is you don't need to have played football to be a football coach.
Yeah, but it's the same sort of meaning, isn't it? So what, you can teach someone how to drive a car, but you haven't got a driving licence yourself. I mean, that's exactly the same as you're saying, in my mind.
Your mind's crazy.
I'm actually going to draw an early end to proceedings. Oh, I'm crying. I'm not actually clear as the judge, and maybe I just need to step out of the judge for a second, whether you actually choose someone that you agree with the point, or you choose someone that's argued their point to the fullest extent. I actually think it should be the latter, in that if someone's presented a really, really good case, then they should be the winner. So it's absolutely blown my mind that this is the case. But in the question of do you have to have played the game, you should be a barrister, Luke, because the way in which you argued that was absolutely top class. And I thought that the way in which you got the question across about flying a plane and how dangerous it is, you cannot disagree. That is incredibly dangerous to have flown a plane or teach someone to fly.
I'd be interested, just if we've got any pilots listening, would you have to?
I think all the pilots that are listening, write in.
I mean, that's to be contempt of course.
So this week's winner, and the winner of this week's prize, which is a fantastic prize. As you know, Luke stopped bringing in the winner's medal. Now he's no longer the judge, and instead we have to scurry around the office to find something. What I've found is a picture of Jonny Martin coaching.
I hope I win.
Of this week's prize is Super Luke Chadwick.
Well, I can't believe that. Thank you for such a lovely prize. I've actually already got this one on my bedside table though, so hopefully I can get another one off you, Jonny, and maybe you can sign this for me.
Yeah, no worries, mate.
Thank you very much.
Great stuff. Let's have a chat about what we actually think, because that was borderline ridiculous. Let's get into a real chat. Okay, let's end this lunacy and get back to reality. Luke, is it a requirement for good football coaches, great football coaches, to have played the game themselves?
No, obviously I'm talking a lot of rubbish, but still won the photo of Jonny, which I'm delighted about. But I think, so when you look at the top level of football, without a doubt, I think it helps having them had that lived-in experience of playing the game. I think if you look at all professional football clubs, the vast majority of the managers, the coaches would have had some experience in playing football. But when it comes to children's football coaching, it doesn't matter a jot if you played the game or not. It's all about giving children a positive experience playing football, and that is the be-all and end-all.
I think that one's not even worth debating in terms of then.
Yeah.
That is really clear and obvious, isn't it? It doesn't matter what level you've played at. If you're going to coach a 6-year-old to play football, you just need to make it fun and enjoyable, right?
100%.
So what I think is really interesting is Sir Alex Ferguson and Jose Mourinho and their playing careers versus their managerial careers. What would be your take on that?
So I think with Sir Alex and Jose Mourinho, they both were professional.
Jose?
Jose?
I call him Jose, but that's only because I know him.
Jose
Apologise
Mourinho.
profusely.
That both had professional careers. I think when we were kids at United, Sir Alex used to take us into his office and show us videos of him playing the game. He used to teach us how he was a fantastic header of the ball. He used to show us that sort of thing. And I think they, although not having glittering footballing careers, still knew what it took to become a professional. Now, don't get me wrong, there is people that are not part of that rule. You look at people like Mark Bonner, the ex-Cambridge United manager, who didn't have a career in professional football, but was an excellent coach and done incredibly well for the club that I support, got them promoted. But I think that is not the norm. I think the norm is for it to be someone who's had a career playing football.
So it's a clear benefit, isn't it? It's a clear benefit. If you've been in the dressing
Yeah.
room, if you've been around it, then it's a clear benefit. It's just, is it a requirement?
Yeah, look, like you say, I worked with Mark Bonner at Cambridge United, and he was an incredibly talented coach and person and impressive individual. And I think he probably is a really good example of one that I can speak openly about, because I've been close to him during his time, and he was super talented. And like you say, he didn't have this professional career before coaching, and did a fantastic job at Cambridge and got them promoted and everything else. So I think there is proof that it shouldn't or doesn't necessarily be a requirement, especially at the top level. Obviously, as you go down, absolutely not. But one thing you said earlier on at the start, Luke, that I was interested in was around, like, obviously having played professional football, do you get preferential treatment or fast track on courses and that type of stuff? So, like, are the possibilities and opportunities for an ex-pro far beyond someone that hasn't played at the highest level?
Yeah, I think definitely. I think obviously through the PFA, they want to support you when you come out of your playing career, and also while you're still playing. Excuse me. So you do get the opportunity. In my mind, obviously, I've not been on the other side of the fence, but for me, it was very easy to access my level 2 UEFA B A license in the space of 2.5 years, doing all them things. Right?
Was that a good thing, though, on reflection, going through it that quickly?
Not at all. I think, like, for me, it was what I needed to do because I wanted to get a job. I wanted to work in the game. But on reflection, obviously, when you're sort of rushing through these courses, ticking the box to be able to get a job in the game, you probably don't take the lessons or have that reflection time to really sort of feed into the lessons that you've learned within them courses. So probably in reality, for me, and it might sound awful, I didn't have a huge passion for coaching. I didn't really want to, but I wasn't desperate to become a coach. I just thought, I've stopped playing now, so what else can I do apart from become a football coach? And sort of just went through it to get to a point where I could work in the game full time by having those qualifications.
And when you did, in particular, your B licence and A licence, which are courses that you can fail, were they with a group of ex-pros? Was it all ex-pros, or was it like were you just fast tracked onto the next course with a mixture of people? How did that work?
So with my level 2, all 3 of the qualifications that I got, they were all with ex-pros. So you were there together.
And did anyone fail?
Yeah, to be fair, it wasn't a case of you just get put through. It was like still quite a stringent process. And I think the best thing about that was feedback, because they obviously want you to get through it because it's done through the PFA and whatnot. But the feedback was incredibly developmental. You were told sort of exactly what you weren't doing right and how you could improve. And that really helped me improve really quickly as a coach. But there's certainly people that didn't get through that process as well as those that did.
What do you think, John, about things have changed a lot with FA qualifications, haven't they? In terms of, it used to be that you could sort of, back when I did them, which was quite a long time ago, it was like you could book onto the course and you didn't have to work you didn't have to be in a certain job, done a certain amount of coaching or certain type of coaching to get there. So I did my B license at 21, and I was just like coaching a few hours as a casual coach at Cambridge. And I think I probably would have got on it even if I wasn't doing that. Now, I think it's pretty tough to get on those courses.
So tough. You see all the time on like Twitter. I think it's like they do certain times of the year where the FA obviously takes people onto the courses and announces them. And you see on that day, there's loads of people that are really excited on sort of Twitter and social media. They're posting their email that they've got where they've been accepted onto the course. But there's so many people that are gutted and disappointed that they haven't been allowed onto the course. And you often then see them sort of share all the coaching that they're doing, all the work that they're doing maybe in the local community or even with a club. And I think it is really difficult. And I assume it just comes down to supply and demand. And there's loads of people that want to get on these courses, and the FA are unable to facilitate the demand that's currently in place. But it is, as far as I'm aware, really difficult now. I was so fortunate that during my time at Cambridge that, similar to you, I don't think I was fast-tracked, but I was given access and opportunity to go onto these courses, and through my role at the club at the time, I was able to then get access to the coaching hours that I needed, the players that I needed, even the funding that I needed to be able to go on these courses. Because
I think that's the biggest challenge when you talk about the supply and demand, because people that are in jobs are easier for them to get on the courses, particularly in professional clubs where they get spaces for them to put them on. So the ones that aren't currently working at a club, for example, find it so much harder to get on, and without the qualifications, they can't continue their journey and progress within that. So I think that's probably the biggest challenge, really. And then obviously the cost of the qualifications, they're not cheap by any stretch of the imagination. It's such a expensive career to get into, and then often the rewards that you get when you're in it aren't probably what you were maybe expecting.
So here's a question for you then. So obviously it's really difficult to get on the courses. It's difficult for the coaches to progress into like professional football clubs if they want to, because they haven't then got the qualifications. Is it important? Do they need the qualifications? Do you see that as because it's similar to obviously the question, you need to have played at the very highest level to be a youth coach. We all agree that that's nonsense. But do you need those qualifications to be able to then coach at the sort of youth level?
At youth level, I mean, we've seen some absolutely fantastic unqualified coaches. And we've seen them, and they have then gone on their journey, haven't they, to then get the qualifications. But what makes them fantastic, in my view, and I think you guys agree, is their ability to engage, inspire, create a safe, fun and developmental environment for the children that they're coaching. The qualifications then supplement that, but they don't create that.
No.
You have to be that person first, irrespective of the qualifications. Obviously, the best case scenario is you have the qualifications, because then you gain the experience and you get to work. I think for me, one of the best things about the courses, when I think back to the courses I've done, I don't think about the content of the course. I think about the people that were on the course and the conversations that I had, and the opportunity to see them coach and learn from them, as well as the tutor. But for me, it's obviously the best case scenario is to have the qualification and the experience. But ultimately, if you're not the right person, or you don't have the right personality, and you don't have the charisma on the pitch to be able to get the best out of children in particular, I think that it's basically pointless.
That's the point, isn't it? It is all about personality, because I can guarantee that not one of the children that are getting coached care a jot if this coach is at UEFA B, UEFA A licensed coach. And I think that's what it is. It is about engaging children to fall in love with the game, because that's when they develop into better footballers, but more importantly, better people as well.
So if we're saying there's a continuum, and we're going right from one end where I think we're in agreement that at the lowest end of football, 5, 6, 7 years old, that you do not have to have even really played the game. Like, you might have played recreationally, but as long as you played it and you love it and you know what it's all about, then you can be a great coach.
I think sometimes that can be, having some experience can be of a detriment at that age, because you just revert to what you done as a child, and like we see it a lot. We're seeing grassroots sessions with loads of cues. We spoke about it last week. Fitness, running around the pitch, and I think sometimes when you come into it fresh with new ideas, and it is all about the kids having fun, I think that can make the the coach better than someone that has had experience, particularly in them youngest age groups.
Brilliant. Agree with that. Yeah, can actually hold you back. So we're saying it's really, really not important at all. We're then going to the other end of the spectrum. We're saying that if you are managing in the Champions League, it's really important that you probably ideally played in the Champions League, certainly been in the dressing room during a match where you've been part of the squad or part of the coaching team for the Champions League. Would you agree with that?
I think it's just the norm, isn't it? I think there's so few that have been in that situation that haven't had that experience. I think it is changing. The game is changing. You see more people sort of coming through different ways and not having a career in the game. But I think I'm not saying that definitely should be the case. I think it's just what we've always had, that it's an ex-player.
So I think it should. I think it's giving you the best possible chance. If you're in the Champions League final and I'm the manager, and I've played in the Champions League and I've managed in the Champions League for multiple seasons in the past, and I've lost a semi-final, and I know the reasons why I lost the semi-final, and I know the reason why I won the game before that, I actually know a lot that's really going to really help me be the best manager that I can be in that situation.
I probably disagree.
Interesting.
I think when it happens once and someone is given an opportunity and is successful, I think you'll then start to see that happen more and more and more. So I think if someone that hasn't played at the very highest level is given an opportunity at the level and they do really well, and obviously that is merited and through their hard work and the knowledge that they've built up, I don't think it's necessarily a game check or like a deal breaker for me, because I think you could have a coach that hasn't played at the highest level, coaching at the highest level, and still be really successful. But I don't think it will be the norm, or I don't know if it will ever happen, because it will take a club to have complete trust and faith in that person for it to happen for the first time. Mm-hmm. But if it does happen for the first time and goes well, then you could see that start to happen more and more and more.
Watch this space, guys. Jonny Martin to Real Madrid.
I played in the Champions League.
And hopefully people will start pilot training irrespective of whether they've flown.
That's dangerous.
Fantastic stuff. What a great discussion. We could sit here for hours talking about this one, I think. But we are eagerly anticipating the quickfire questions for Luke Chadwick. New segment of the podcast. It's extremely popular. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's talking about it.
Not everyone.
Both me and Jonny have been talking about it a lot, so let's get into it right now. It's time for quickfire questions. I'm going to kick us off this week, then I'll hand over to Jonny. My question, Luke, is about your time at MK Dons. Now, when you played Wimbledon, AFC Wimbledon, did the players see that as a derby match in the same way that the fans did?
It was definitely built up as a big game. There was quite a lot of tension behind it, obviously, for what went on with Wimbledon moving the club to MK Dons and Wimbledon starting all over again, done incredibly well to get back into a position where we were playing each other. I mean, I think as players, we knew it was a big game, to play against them. I mean, I'm not sort of intelligent enough or privy enough to go into the detail of like whether it was right or wrong, what happened, but it was very different. We had a police escort into Stadium MK, which had never happened before, because the potential of there being trouble at the game and whatnot. But once the game starts, and any game, it was a normal game. I think a little bit of a historian fact, I actually played in the first ever game that Wimbledon played in Milton Keynes at the hockey stadium for Burnley. Not sure why I've said that, but that's just another fact. But in terms of the game, we knew it was...
Great facts.
Fantastic
that's what I come up with.
Yeah.
We knew it was a big game. Probably didn't see it as a derby game, but it was very important because there was an obvious rivalry between the two clubs.
Interesting.
Nice. So my quick fire question is sort of related. What is the fiercest rivalry that you've played in?
I think without a doubt, the fiercest would have been Manchester United v Liverpool. You could feel the tension, you could feel the hatred. I remember playing at Anfield for the first time, being on the bench, warming up, and you used to get absolutely abused by the. But you knew how much you were hated as a Manchester United player, and vice versa when Liverpool came to Old Trafford. I think very similar feelings in the Leeds game, going to Ellen Road and playing there. The tension was huge, and you knew the two clubs hated each other. I was lucky enough to play in a Manchester derby as well, which of course was intense, but probably the rivalry wasn't as big as you felt the Liverpool and Leeds, probably because at the time City weren't what they're doing now, and at the top of the league they were sort of flirting with relegation, come up from the Championship, but they're probably the ones. I think the East Anglian derby, Norwich v Ipswich, that was another really fierce one. Millwall against West Ham, another one where you could feel the hatred between the two clubs, but they're probably the biggest ones, I'd say.
Nice.
Wonderful. Very, very insightful. Very, very interesting. Thanks for joining us for this week's podcast, and we look forward to the next one.